Of every man who ever sat at a table in the Bada Bing, Ralph Cifaretto is the only one who would obsessively watch Gladiator, and then, completely unprompted, act out the best parts for his crew using a heavy chain. He is, by any reasonable measure, the most purely entertaining character in 6 seasons of this show. He is also the person who beats a pregnant 20-year-old to death outside that same club. David Chase gave his writers one instruction when they built this character. Every gangster in this show is a scumbag, but Ralph is a real scumbag, and he has to be charming and funny anyway. That sentence is the entire show's theory of evil. Ralph Cifaretto is not the exception to the Sopranos' moral universe. He's the most honest expression of it. Ralph arrives in Season 3 already a problem the family can't afford to solve. He's a captain, installed by Tony specifically because nobody else wants the headache of dealing with him directly. And he is, without argument, one of the best earners in the entire DeMayo organization. He runs construction scams. He's connected to half the rackets in North Jersey. And Tony, despite despising him personally, almost from the moment they meet, cannot get rid of him because the money is too good. This is the engine of the whole character. Ralph survives every single thing he does. Tracy's murder, Jackie Jr.'s death, the constant disrespect, because he produces. The Sopranos spend 6 seasons arguing that capitalism and gangsterism run on the same fuel. Results buy you protection from consequences, all the way up the chain. Ralph is the show's bluntest illustration of that idea. He is too profitable to kill, until he isn't. Season 3, Episode 6 is structurally one of the most audacious hours the show ever produced. It cuts between Meadow starting her freshman year at Columbia and Tracy, a 20-year-old stripper at the Bada Bing, trying to survive being involved with Ralph Cifaretto. 2 young women, the same age, living in the same state, in completely different universes that the show insists on showing you side by side. Tracy tells Ralph she's pregnant. He responds with a cruel, dismissive joke about what to name the kid, ending with a brutal insult about her worth as a human being. When she pushes back, when she asks for the bare minimum of respect, he beats her to death. This is the moment the show asks you to stop finding Ralph entertaining. And crucially, it's the moment Tony turns around and beats Ralph half to death for what he did. Tony's rage is real, but it's fueled almost entirely by his own guilt. Throughout the episode, Tracy, a girl the exact same age as his own daughter, keeps projecting a father figure onto Tony, baking him bread and asking for advice. But Tony has no interest in being her friend. In his mind, and by the brutal rules of his world, he has no duty to her whatsoever. She's just a worker at the club. He coldly maintains that boundary while she is alive, only to violently erupt on Ralph after she's already dead in a desperate attempt to soothe his own conscience. And even then, the punishment changes nothing structurally. Ralph keeps his rank, keeps his earning territory, keeps his life. Ralph is dating Rosalie April, the widow of the former boss, and in doing so becomes the closest thing her son, Jackie Jr., has to a father figure. He does nothing with that position except enable Jackie's worst instincts, feeding him fantasies about the life, never steering him away from it, treating a grieving, directionless young man as an audience rather than a responsibility. When Jackie Jr., high and desperate, robs a card game connected to Ralph's own money, Ralph's response isn't grief or guilt. It's the cold, practical math of a man who sees a liability. Faced with looking weak in front of his crew, he orders the hit on Jackie to protect his own reputation. Trading the life of a kid he had every opportunity to actually mentor, while dating the kid's own mother, sitting in the kid's own father's old chair at the table. It's one of the clearest illustrations in the whole series of a theme that runs under everything Ralph does. Proximity to him is dangerous, specifically because he treats relationships as instruments. Rosalie is a girlfriend, Jackie is a problem. Nothing is sacred enough to interrupt the calculation. While he's still entangled with Rosalie April, Ralph starts up something with Janice Soprano, Tony's sister, a woman with her own long history of attaching herself to men for what they can offer her, then discarding them the moment something better appears. It's worth pausing on this pairing because it's the one relationship in Ralph's arc where he isn't clearly the most dangerous person in the room. Janice sees Ralph clearly in a way almost nobody else in the show does. She's not afraid of him, and she's not naive about what he is. If anything, the relationship plays like 2 people running compatible cons on each other simultaneously. Ralph gets a partner who won't be shocked by anything he does, and Janice gets proximity to a captain's money and status. There's no pretense of romance distorting either person's judgment, which is itself revealing, and when it finally breaks down, it breaks down differently than every other relationship in Ralph's life. An argument turns physical, and it's Janice who ends up on top. shoving Ralph down a flight of stairs. He survives, humiliated, rather than destroyed. For a character defined by inflicting violence on the people closest to him, it's a rare moment where the show lets someone hit back. Janice isn't a victim in this relationship the way Tracy was, or the way Rosalie effectively becomes. She's the one person in his orbit who meets force with force and walks away on her own terms. Ralph buys into Pyomai the same way he approaches everything, as an asset, a status symbol, something that wins races, makes money, and reflects well on him when she's performing. He's perfectly happy to be photographed with her, to talk her up at the track, to enjoy the version of ownership that costs him nothing and pays out. The moment that calculus flips, when she gets sick and the vet bills start piling up, his interest evaporates. He complains about the cost. He resents the obligation. The horse stopped being profitable, so in Ralph's accounting, she stopped mattering. It's Tony who actually loves her. Tony is the one who drives out to the stables in the middle of the night in the rain to sit with a sick animal that can't do anything for him, can't advance his interests, can't be leveraged into anything. It's some of the only unguarded tenderness we see from Tony in the entire series, and the show places it directly next to Ralph's indifference, specifically to make the contrast unmissable. This is the real value of the Pyomai storyline for understanding Ralph. It's not a window into some hidden capacity for love. It's the opposite. It's proof that there isn't one. Tracy stopped being useful to him, so he killed her. Jackie Jr. became a liability, so he had him killed. Pyomai gets sick and becomes a financial drain, and, whether or not the show ever confirms it on screen, Ralph almost certainly burns her alive to collect the insurance money. Same pattern, 3 different victims, one of them a horse. The show doesn't soften Ralph by giving him an animal to love. It uses the animal to prove, with total clarity, that he was never capable of it in the first place. What finally gets Ralph killed isn't a grand moral reckoning. It's an argument about a horse, layered on top of years of accumulated contempt, that escalates into a physical fight Tony didn't fully plan and can't fully explain afterward. There's no triumphant justice in it. It's 2 men who have hated each other for years, finally running out of road. The show refuses to give Ralph's death any weight of cosmic justice. It's framed as squalid, practical, almost embarrassing. Bodies have to be disposed of. Christopher has to help dismember a man he's known for years, and nobody in the crew particularly mourns him. Even his murder is denied the dignity of meaning something. That's the most savage thing the show does to Ralph Cifaretto. Even his ending is petty. Here's the uncomfortable truth underneath all of this. Ralph Cifaretto never lies about what he is. Tony performs guilt in therapy and keeps offending. Carmela performs ignorance about where the money comes from. Christopher performs loyalty while resenting every minute of his life. Ralph doesn't perform anything. He's funny because he genuinely finds things funny. He's cruel because cruelty costs him nothing emotionally. He doesn't even bother performing love for the one creature in his life that might have made the performance easy. He can't manage affection, even for a horse, because affection was never in him to begin with. David Chase built every major character in this show around some gap between what they project and what they are. Ralph is the one character with no gap at all. What you see is completely, terrifyingly what you get. And the show's real argument, the thing it's been building toward across Ralph's entire arc, is that the gap everyone else maintains isn't actually a moral advantage, it's just better PR. That's why he's so hard to look away from. Not because he hides what he is, but because he doesn't bother. And somewhere around the second time he made you laugh, you stopped expecting him to. The show isn't interested in whether you can forgive Ralph Cifaretto. It's interested in how comfortable you got, sitting across from a man who never once pretended to be anything other than exactly what he was.